Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are well, staying positive and focused on what you can control. My name is Patricia Mota. I am currently serving as President and CEO for the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, a national nonprofit organization whose mission is to positively impact workplaces by cultivating the pipeline of Latinx talent, providing Latinos the insight, access, and development to be successful in their careers. Happy Thanksgiving week. We are extremely grateful for you, for our HACE familia that helps us make the impact on so many lives throughout the year. And just a couple things and updates. If you are looking for your next career opportunity, next week is HACE's final recruitment series event focused on STEM careers. So whether you are in the sciences and technology, please sign up. It's free. We have great employers that are joining us and great opportunities and individuals for you to connect with. And last but not least, we are in our end of year campaign. As many of you know, we are entering 40 years, celebrating 40 years next year in 2022. And while we have some incredible events and programs planned to celebrate our history and our members, we are excited to announce that we will be awarding 40 students scholarships, a total of $100,000 to help them in their achieve their educational aspirations. And the need to support Latino first-generation college students are greater than ever before. We're asking for donations. We're about a third of the way so that we can impact the lives of 40 students across the country. So please take some time. Any amount helps. So please, we appreciate your support for our end of year campaign. And we are here with our special guest today, Marta and Pineiro-Nunez, who is the head of Talent Development Academy at Medicine's Innovation Hub at Eli, Lilly and Company. Buenos dias, Marta. How are you today?
Buenos dias. Well, how about yourself?
I'm doing so well, and I'm so excited for you to join us. I'm appreciative of our partnership with Eli Lilly and to be able to connect and share our audience, your background and with individuals such as yourself. Marta, you know, one of the first things we like to start off with Cafecito con HACE is ask our guests is how do you like your cafecito, or what's your morning beverage of choice?
Oh, cafecito for sure. So I like it. I have one of those Italian makers at home, you know, the European makers, but then with no sugar and just either some half and half or some milk, because the sugar, I guess I'm already sugary enough.
She's got enough sweetness going on. And as we engage with this conversation, for those of you tuning in, please, we want to hear from you, your comments, your questions. Good morning, and let's get this conversation going. So, Marta, can you tell us about your background, both cultural, your professional experience, and how
Sure.
you got to such a significant role that you lead today?
So I guess the pasito a pasito, right? I came to the United States when I was 22 years old, actually 30 years ago, as an exchange student. Many of us in sciences end up over here. In fact, I have a professional from Ecuador who's going to be joining me for Thanksgiving. She just joined the company. She's in the same situation that I was 30 years ago. I came as an exchange student, and then due to professional opportunities, I never left. So I was at the University of Wyoming. Then I did my PhD at the University of Indiana University. So I spent 5 years in Indiana University. Then I postdoced at Colorado State University. And then I got recruited by Eli Lilly and Company. This was always a pasito a pasito. It was never planned. I'm not much of a planner. I'm more of a surfer, somebody that identifies opportunities and jumps on them. And then I started, as a scientist in the bench. I spent 8 years at the bench, and then I started to explore other opportunities within the company that ended up putting me in positions of a strategy, I guess, development of improvement processes, switch careers, um, again, in a flow kind of way, like going where the opportunities were presenting themselves. I led a large team in external innovation for about a decade, where we did collaborations with universities in all around the world. And more recently, the last 3 years, my boss, who's all wise, decided that I should be focusing on people. And I said, well, I love people. He says, well, you light up 300% when you tell me about people. So I want you to organize these programs, and I want you to get this in a consistent manner across the MIH, our large organization. So since then, I've been developing and leading all the programs focus on early career. So the first 10 years of a scientist's career are very, they determine the trajectory of advancement. So my entire job and my team were focused on that. Young scientists, identifying them, recruiting them, forming them, developing them, and then what happens next when they join the company? How do we nurture that talent? So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
That's amazing. And because there's a lot of research right out there that showcases early in the career, especially in the STEM fields, if you are like first generation or
Hmm.
a woman, right, or those that from are the non-majority that are in those fields, that the retention rate
Exactly, exactly.
there's such a need to. So I love that you're focused on that. I've read articles right on women who then go on and become teachers, right, and so we want to keep them right in these
Yes,
fields as well.
yes.
That's amazing. And you were talking about how, and this is part of the ASTA vision, is if we want to develop folks in their careers to become leaders, to achieve their highest
Hmm.
potential, but also to ensure the responsibility that we have to pay it forward, right? Bring others
Absolutely,
along. So Marta,
absolutely.
with you sharing that you're doing, for bringing someone in an exchange, someone that's an exchange student and supporting them with their journey just speaks volumes in terms of you giving back. And I think it's so pivotal in our careers, right? And I have my earpiece that keeps dropping, but I have the other one. Can you talk more about your cultural background, like in,
Hmm.
in terms of who you are and
Sure.
that background? And we know
So
we
I,
talked a little bit before we
a
got
little bit.
started.
So I was born in the northwest part of Spain, Galicia, which is very, very closely associated with Latin America because we traditionally were a region of immigrants. So people would leave Galicia every week. There were boats loaded for the New World
Mm,
through the entire 19th century. So every Galician alive today has cousins in all of Latin America. I have cousins in Venezuela. I have a lot of close family in Cuba, Buenos Aires, Montevideo. I mean, every single person
wow.
that is from my region had family abroad, and that was just the way. It's kind of Ireland, we populated the New World, so there's a close association with the Latino culture. When I came to the United States, I first associated a lot with Europeans, but soon I started gravitating a lot more to the Latinos, just because not that I'm not able to make friends with Germans and French, but the cultural pool from the Latino culture was a lot stronger. This is where I feel at home in the US. It took me a while when I became a citizen to actually define myself as Hispanic.
Mm,
But it was kind of a process of where do I fit? You come in as a foreigner to American culture, and it takes you a while to figure out who your tribe is, who your people are. And pretty soon, I think eventually I did click on the button in the census, and I've been very happy with that choice. I think this is definitely my second family. What I love about being a Hispanic in the U.S. is that we are known for being hardworking, family-driven, family-focused, which translates as a very much team-oriented culture.
yeah.
I see that in Lilly every day of the week. We are a very tight family as far as helping each other, supporting each other professionally, and I like that label. I like being labeled as the people that help others, that are family first, that are team first, and very much hardworking, focus on excellence in the workplace.
Wow. And people, family is such a strong value, right, in the community. And your story is just a perfect example. It embodies what the U.S. Hispanic, Latino, Latinx cohort represents, right? The countries of origin, over 20, 27 countries of origin. Some of us that are immigrants to this country are first, second, third, fourth, fifth generation. And then how we choose to identify varies, right?
Mhm.
Whether
Yes.
it's specific to your country of origin. And I love that, our community also so intersectional that it can also help
Yes.
promote allyship across all communities group, right? All community. And I think your example and being that you were called upon to lead people and to focus more on that is a perfect example of that and what with your background and your values brings to the table. What else can you speak a little bit more about what you oversee in your role
Mhm.
and some of the things that you see and specifically the other thing because we have a diverse audience, maybe those that are getting started in their careers to those that are further along, those any advice that you have for those in the sciences, right, that they should consider or think about.
Yeah, so my role, I work for the MIH, like you mentioned, the Medicines
Hmm.
Innovation Hub. This is an organization that is made basically every STEM field is represented from computational
Mm.
scientists all the way to logistics, supply chain, engineers, chemists, biologists, crystallographers, you name it. So there's about 1,500 scientists in this organization. We basically invent, make and then make the medicine. So we invent the molecule, we convert the molecule into the drug, and the drug into the medicine. The entire supply chain, from idea to delivery of clinical trial materials. So what I do for this organization, I have under my responsibility all of the programs focus on talent acquisition and talent development for early career professionals. So the majority of my focus, even though I do have a few interesting colleagues that want to be involved now that have been in the industry for long, mainly as
Mhm.
mentors, I bring them together as well. But my focus are the young people, the engineers, the scientists starting their careers early stage. I myself am first generation college. I was showing you earlier. This is my dear grandma. My grandma was illiterate. My mom never went to school either. And I'm the first generation from my family to achieve a college education. So I understand what it was like to get started, particularly in a very competitive culture as the United States. It's a very competitive
Mhm.
culture. Being humble doesn't help in this culture. And that's something that from my background, I've seen this in a lot of Hispanics and Latinos where humbleness is a value. So that comes um, against the American culture of competition and basically self-advocacy. So I focus all of my efforts on programs, like I said, on that early stage of the career. First, acquiring the scientists, training them, but then developing them and helping them achieve their best potential. So for things first decade.
Wonderful. No, a lot of things that you just shared, right? One is on the traditional values that we traditionally hold as a community. Hola, Roberto. We have
Hola,
our team right
Roberto.
here joining us
Roberto.
from Eli and Lily on how we have to learn how to balance that with what some of the traditional expectations in the workforce. I think that a lot of the values that as a community we bring are critical more than ever and that we bring to the workplace, but also understanding how to adapt and shift when needed in order to be influential and be able to get things done. And so in terms of the sciences too that you're working with and the folks in the sciences, any advice for those that are looking
Yeah.
to advance in their careers, those that are in their early career stations, that's your
Yes.
focus. What tips or advice would you have for them?
So the first advice that I would want to bring to people is that don't be intimidated.
Mm,
It's very important to think about yourself. You talked about self-awareness, Patricia.
mhm,
Every student should do the exercise of understanding their value. What do they bring to an organization? It's very daunting and very intimidating when you first try to sell your brand to a company. I'm helping constantly individuals in this. So you need to be very aware of your self value. It's not a competition where you're trying to be the smartest person in the room because there's always going to be somebody smarter. But what do you uniquely bring to that workplace that you can sell?
mm,
Think about selling yourself as a product. There's a lot of literature. I recommend Strengths Finder, Gallup.
mhm,
The Gallup organization has a book, they even have the version for students or for professionals, of
Yes.
identifying your top strengths, and then build your story on that top strength. Don't ever think about whoever everybody else is doing. What did you bring to the table? When I came to the United States, in the Indiana University, the students had a nickname for me. They called me the Spanish chick, which I think is actually quite disrespectful. But at the time, I didn't have any internships. I didn't have any contacts. I didn't have anybody speaking for me. And lo and behold, I think I was probably the number one or number two person to pass my cumulative exams, my qualifying exams, and then everybody stopped calling me anything. I ended up having the scholarships to advance, and then my confidence grew. So what I want to tell anybody starting their journey is, don't worry about what anybody else, you are not responsible what anybody else thinks about you. You are responsible
Mm-hmm.
what you are think about you and your capabilities. So I think that that's the biggest advice I can give anybody, that there is a value to each individual, that you are the first person that need to understand how to market yourself. And I spoke a little bit about the skills and the strengths, but there's also values. In the workplace, I think the most important thing is the values of the individual. If you have a value for hard work and cooperativeness, collaboration, being helpful, being an asset to your team, that is not something that you bring with. Nobody at
Mm-hmm.
any university can teach you that. You bring that from your home. So those are the differentiators that are going to make
Yeah.
a professional be um, top notch in any field that I can think about.
So being authentic to who you are, right? In terms of your
Absolutely.
own strengths and capabilities and
Absolutely.
building off of that,
Build
I
off
think
of
is
that.
critical.
Absolutely.
Edgar, hola, buenos dias. He's one of our Hace Familia joining us weekly. Amazing story, inspirational. Thank you for being so authentic and transparent. And that's something so critical, especially in this day and age, that leaders, employers are looking for. We have a question, Marta, regarding what advice do you give specifically to international students, professionals navigating their career in the US?
Yes. So in my experience, Lilly and many of the top companies, there's really not a concern about where you're coming from. They are more interested in top talent, wherever that top talent. For the majority of us that were actually exchange students, you have a barrier. You worry about immigration issues, etc. So for if you apply for jobs at top corporations, that's usually not a concern. I want to make sure that you are not. A lot of my interns ask me that question,
Mm,
from Russia, from African countries, from Europe, from Latin America. That's usually not a concern when you have. That's a conversation that can happen. Now, in the smaller companies, that might be a little bit more difficult because they won't have the apparatus to
mm,
to help you with your immigration status. But for the majority, if you are applying to jobs in larger corporations, be transparent, share that you have a status that you would need to discuss. That usually comes later, after they actually select the talent. At
mhm.
Lilly, we actually have that evaluation, and Roberto can speak more to that than I can, but we definitely select the talent first, and then we resolve the situation, whatever the situation is. I don't want students to be stressed out thinking that they are overcoming something that is an insurmountable barrier. And many
Yeah.
times it is worth it to consult with an immigration attorney to set aside those fears. I think that the American companies are not particularly worried about where talent comes from. They
Well,
they
and also there's a lot of remote opportunities that and things have really changed, right? And I think
Yes, fear,
for so
fear doesn't.
many,
Yeah, fear doesn't help anybody. You hear in the media all of this stuff and all of this noise.
yeah.
Set that aside. Get some professional. Even career centers at universities can provide some advice. But I would advise every student or every young professional not to particularly worry about that, but worry about showcasing themselves,
Hmm.
their with capabilities, what they have to offer, and then maybe get some advice from a knowledgeable attorney, as opposed to worrying about what the hearsay or what the TV says, or what Instagram says, or what the
Yeah.
noise out there. This is a friendly economy to talent.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we have a question from Jenny. What advice do you give someone starting their career in a global organization dealing with imposter syndrome? So, imposter
Yes,
syndrome being that you've achieved a certain level of success or a certain career level opportunity, you're walking in rooms and you feel that you don't really
you don't
belong. What am
belong.
I doing here? And so, what would you say, Marta?
So we all have dealt with that every day of our lives. Smart people, particularly very intelligent or people with a high EQ, empathetic quotient,
Hmm.
tend to suffer from imposter syndrome. That's why it's so prevalent in women. Anybody that has awareness will suffer from this. So just acknowledge, all of us do every day of the week.
Yeah.
I sit, my lead team, I report to a senior VP. So my peers are all VPs of organizations with 500 people or more. Those are my peers. I enter the room and there I am, little me, talking to them. The first thing that you need to do is acknowledge that imposter syndrome is real. It exists. We all suffer from it at a certain level when we have a level of awareness. Set it aside. Think about yourself and what you bring uniquely to that table. And you can say, well, I'm sitting at this table. I have achieved being at this table. What do I bring to this table that is unique to me? I tend to play a lot on my ability to I guess read the room, for instance,
Mm,
understand what my peers, when I sense that there is rejection for a proposal, I tend to put myself into their shoes and say, okay, what it is that is bothering them. So I use
mm,
um, this skill, unique to me, not very common amongst my peers. At least they don't demonstrate it so much. And I tend to use to think about, okay, what do I fit in this big picture of individuals? Okay, they are all VPs, but what is unique to me? Okay, I have my particular journey that adds to theirs. And then once I started building on that, I understand that I am valued to those colleagues, and then the imposter syndrome never disappears, but I have it under control. So acknowledge that it exists, but don't let it overcome, and make sure
yes.
it cannot be, imposter syndrome cannot rule your life. You
Yeah.
have
So
to tell it to
you
stay
have to
aside.
yeah. I think acknowledgement is important,
It
and for
is.
me, I say it's telling my that little voice in my head that says, "You belong here and you are valued here," right? So it's
Yes,
it's
but
the
you gotta
mindset
value. It's the mindset. You
and
gotta value yourself, and there's actually exercises, psychological exercises, where you speak to the mirror as if you are talking to a friend. How would
yeah,
you be talking to yourself? How can you become your best friend in the professional environment where you don't undermine yourself? Many times we
yeah,
are the ones that undermine our own confidence, and
right.
it is important that you become that best friend.
Yeah.
So
And Marta, we are running out of time and we're going to invite you back and engage with us throughout the
absolutely.
year. We've mentioned Roberto a couple of times. So if you're looking for your next career opportunity, he's your go to. Send him a message on LinkedIn. He's been commenting on the comments. So make sure you reach out to him as well. Marta, I have to, because of the week that we're celebrating and everybody, I think we're looking at and celebrating Thanksgiving with a lot more gratitude this year for many
Yes.
of us, for most of us, I
Yes.
should say. What are you grateful for as we wrap up?
Oh my gosh, I'm grateful. If I could speak Spanish, gracias a la vida que me ha dado
Sí.
tanto. I think I'm grateful most of all for the individuals in my life, for my family, my
Mm,
colleagues. Roberto has been every colleague that I can talk about is almost like a necklace for me that of beautiful pearls. I
mm,
have thrived based on long-lasting professional relationships, and to me that's legacy more than the
mhm,
projects or that you deliver, and the actual thing that I can put in my resume. It's this incredible network of colleagues, friends, family that are still here with us. I lost my dad over the pandemic
mm.
in
Sorry.
2020, so anybody that is here, it's my gratefulness. And
Oh,
I'm
Marta,
grateful. I'm grateful for Patricia Mota. I'm grateful for ACE. Thank you so much for having me.
oh my God, the list can go on. And we're grateful to you, Marta, our partnership with Eli Lilly, and to our Hace Familia for everything that we do. And I just can't emphasize that enough. Marta, un
Un
abrazo bien
abrazo.
fuerte to you, to all of those, and happy Thanksgiving. Hasta la próxima.
Hasta la próxima.
Ciao.